The Scale Model Show.
Welcome to episode 2 of The Scale Model Show, brought to you by me, Matty's Custom Scale, my camera, and the internet. We've got plenty of great content as we continue to go deep into the scale builder's world. On this episode, we'll stick to our familiar segments and we'll take a look at the XW GT kit from DDA and some great products to make it stand out, a custom build on the bench, matching some decals with some custom 3D designs, dioramas, tool time and more. So grab a drink, clear some bench space and let's get straight to it. Bench press. I wanted to go through and show the project of a 1950 Chevy 3100 pickup that I've been working on and off for quite a while now. Okay kit, a bit of flash. It's a 5-window version that comes in the kit, but you know there's plenty of aftermarket support to build the theme that you want. So I wanted to give these ones a try. The theme that I wanted to go with was a bomb style. It's actually similar to this graphic, so an over-accessorized pickup basically. Now I'll start with the chassis. So painted in silver and designed a few different types of hubcaps. So I'll zoom in on those in a moment. But the way I got it so close to the ground with a heavy lowering is actually designed some pretty old school parts. And those are painted in gold. So you can see it's a dropped axle at the front, which brings the wheels quite the way up. And then the way you would lower these trucks or old school cars back in the old days is you would move the differential from below the leaf springs to on top and then add some blocks from the top of the leaf springs. And so you can see those painted in gold as well, just in between the differential and the leaf springs. So that brings the ride height down by bringing the wheels up, if that makes sense. So that's the chassis. The front bar is an aftermarket bar which I designed for Showcase Hobbies. This is a little bit of a raw resin version. You can see there's some reliefs in there for it to fit on the kit bar, but then gets you that stand-up bar look. Now the next piece is the interior. So obviously giveaway, the color theme is purple. Now it's the kit dash, which I haven't completed, but it is painted. And then I went for a lighter offset color for the rest of the interior. And you can see a little bit of a shimmer on the seat. And that's just where I've painted a almost color matching pearl, but with some flat clear over the top. Basic seat just to clean up some of the edges and give a little bit of definition in a pattern, away from the standard kit. A little bit of flocking on the carpet, close to color match with the lighter mauve colors. The steering wheel has a Fatman turner, I think it's called, in the middle. So it's an aftermarket Chevy style or a deluxe Chevy style steering wheel. And then it's not been detailed yet, but you can see that there's a little handle on the left hand side, that little circle where you would hold onto that middle of the steering wheel and then turn it like similar to the bus steering wheels. Yeah. And then under the dash is an aftermarket air conditioning unit that I also designed for Showcase. So that's all available from Showcase Hobbies. Great partnership there. That's the interior. So I haven't done any modifications yet to the body itself. It's got its initial clear coats on it. Still hasn't been rubbed back. But this color really pops, right? It is really nice. And it's actually from Tropical Glitz. They come in a ready to spray luscious blackberry, and these go wild in the sun. So everything is painted in that color. Looks a bit more violet there under the direct light, but there's a few different shades that sort of come through with the metallics. Now for the firewall, a little bit different. I kind of went with a custom theme and took some textured styrene sheet and bent it over the contours of the firewall just to create like a custom pleated sort of a look. and that'll get painted in a white with a matte clear over the top of it. One hubcap style, but what I can show you is a few different hubcap styles that I was playing with to see what would actually match. Now, I was dead set on hubcaps until I came across these wheels. Now, these are actually lowrider style wheels, but they also work for a bomb style, and these are from Tdanis. Now, if we just go to zoom in on them, these wheels are really good quality. They're 3D printed. The chrome is amazing. The tires are 3D printed, and that's a 520 style tire, printed in rubber, a white rubber white wall inserted into it. So these are really pretty wheels. Now, as I mentioned, Detail Junkees, they've got this 50 Chevy truck set, and you can read everything that comes with it. I'll show some of the details, but it's a really amazing set. So this is some adhesive wood for the bed. That'll set that off nicely. A bunch of photo etch that's actually polished. And this really started to get the excitement going. We've got some headlight eyebrows, and I forget what they're called, but to split the look of the center of the headlight. Some gold colored stickers as well to add a few details. Scale Riders was nice enough to throw in a few number plates, which look awesome. So this is where I started to get excited with accessories, and I'll show some of the 3D accessories that I came up with. So obviously a suitcase, Pepsi coolers, either a small size to fit on the side of the truck or in the boot, record player that sits under the dash, some accessory indicators, a few switches for hydraulics and some curb feelers if that's the way I went, a number plate with some of the badges over the top. This is a torch, a retro torch, and a Fulton style sun visor, fedora, and a spare wheel mount. Now the spare wheel mount, the record player are also available through Showcase Hobbies. Then these are a super cool mirror, right? It's called a passing eye. If you haven't heard of a passing eye, go and research it. Super cool, but I've got some of those made up as well. Now for the engine, I actually used the kit engine itself, but came up with a bunch of aftermarket accessories. So finned sump, finned side plate, finned coil cover, finned valve cover with an Offenhausen script, finned air cleaner, and then finned timing cover. And if you stay on the front, the water pump and outlet, the pulleys are all more detailed and 3D printed. If we go to the other side of the engine, you can see Fulton aftermarket style headers, and then an intake that splits up for twin carbs, and then those are obviously 3D printed Stromberg carbs as well. Yeah. Apart from that, just some wiring and some panel line, and then it's a pretty nicely detailed engine. Sticks with the bomb theme of a 6-cylinder. As always, the 3D files from MCS can be downloaded through the links in the description. Now let's check out your builds from across the globe.
The Scale Model Show.
How to. Okay, so pretty exciting, getting close to the end of building this Nissan, and I've just put some glue onto, I've literally just put some glue onto the clear glass. That's not cool. Possibly ruin the build. What am I going to do? I've got to find the right applicator and apply some of this CA glue Debonder from Icky. And then what I'm going to try and do is use some of this debonder to just try and remove this glue and see if I can recover this glass. And then what you can see is actually on both sides the majority of that glue is now gone. I say the majority because if you look really closely, and I don't know if we can pick it up directly, but there is a slight bit of whitening in the corner, but it's barely noticeable. And so you can see by harnessing the power of science and black magic, the CA Debonder has managed to keep this a usable windscreen. I can continue on with my build and it will look as perfect as my fumbling fingers will allow. What's in the box? The kit we're going to look at is all the way from down under, made by DDA Collectibles, which is a 1/24th scale XW GT Falcon custom. Now we're going to unbox this, but if you don't know about the GT Falcon history, here's a quick spiel. Yes, it was a 4-door family car, but you had a GT version which had a 351 Windsor to begin with. Then they moved over to the 351 Cleveland. The GT was the sports version, and then you had the GT HO. HO was handling option, which was built specifically to win Bathurst. So you had the upgraded aerodynamics, which is a chin spoiler, better brakes, so from very poor to marginally poor, suspension from squishy to less squishy, but ultimately these things were muscle cars in 4-door form, built to just win on Sunday and sell on Monday. Okay, so let's check out what's in the box. Pretty ornate sort of opening. We've got an instruction, I wouldn't call it instruction manual, but it's a novel. Apparently these help people assemble models, but yeah, plenty of detail in there, not just on the assembly, but also on the decal placement, which is handy. These were the famous Subaru decals that ran along the side of the body. Got a few different color options there. Orange, yellow, ochre, I think the factory color was called, and then you got black. So here is the body. You can see the 4 doors. You've got all the mounting holes for the lower side trim. You've got antenna, door handles, fuel filler, wiper blades. You can see it's a separate trunk and hood. Overall, it's actually a pretty good molding. There is no flash on this body. Pretty clean overall, yeah. So that's awesome. That's the grille. Obviously the grille comes out first because we like mount them and do some dummy fitting. So that's the grille. You can see the inserts for the headlights and for the fog lights. Door trims. And then what's cool is we've also got not just a rear parcel tray, but we've got some Venetian blinds to put into the back. So that's cool. Interior tub, molded back seat, but you can see the trunk paneling's already there. That's actually the top of the fuel tank, dashboard and wipers, and then that is the firewall. More of the interior. So we've got the center console, we've got the famous steering wheel. These were wood grain. There's posters about these steering wheels back from when we were kids. Instrument cluster, headrests, so plenty of separate items. That's the underside, molded in bottom, and then this is actually the custom version, so it's a bigger wheel tub, but yeah, that's a molded in bottom. Yep, so we know what we can do with that. That's the engine bay that slips in, screw bottom, you can see at the bottom. And then because this is a custom version, this actually comes with a Coyote motor, and then these are intake trumpets. Yeah, radiator with fans, split engine, timing cover, valve covers. Yeah, the hood or bonnet's already got the 2 holes drilled out. Good underside detail, but the 2 holes drilled out for the XW style scoop, which was offset just on that the driver's side. That was part of the intake. Separate trunk, again, nice detail on the bottom. Again, no flash. Yeah, that's the underside of the engine. So that's the sump, suspension, steering, etc. Exhaust tips, that helps get some detail on the finished product. Now the brakes are kind of small, typical muscle car era brakes. Yeah, and you can see those are mounting hubs. These wheels are part of the custom package, so they're like a tubbed Simmons FR style wheel, probably in like a 22 inch. Now interesting is bumpers, lower side trim, fuel filler, door handles. Those are white, not chrome. So keep in mind you're going to have to get some chrome out. I'll show you some paint options. Then you've got side mirrors, nice detailed rear lights. That looks like a sail panel. That might be for the trunk. I'll have to check the instructions. These are the front bucket seats. Obviously that's the base. Cushion goes over the top. Some low profile tyres. Obviously those are big diameter wheels. They are squishy rubber, so even though they come out of shape, they'll mould around to suit the tyres or suit the wheels once the car's ready. And then what is cool is the same rubber for the tyres, you get the bucket seats. Yeah, so those are cool, nice detail. Again, barely any flash, antennas, wiring, etc. So then you get a toolkit, screwdriver, some shafts, screws, tweezers, and your decals. So not a big decal sheet, but you've got your GT stripes that go on the hood and the cowl, the scoop across the back of the trunk, and then you've got a few other decals that go in the interior for the gauges and across the I think that's the glove box door. Lazy Modeler also come up with a stripe mask for the XW Falcon, so that gets you the ability to paint your GT stripes any color you want just through some masking. And then also, if you're not going to run the bonnet scoop, you get rid of those holes as well. Now just something to watch out for is, as I've been opening these bags, a couple of pieces have fallen off the sprue. They've stayed in the bag, they haven't gotten damaged, but these are the types of things that can go missing pretty easily, and that can be pretty frustrating at the end of a build. So don't lose some of these pieces, just be careful as you open the bags. So what else is super cool is SMS actually come up with some OEM Ford colours. So we've got yellow ochre, vermilion fire, which was one of the most famous colours, candy apple red, which is one of my favourite. Then we've got reef green, which is a little bit more subtle, it's a metallic, electric blue, and diamond white. And then if you're looking for a way to paint up that chrome, you'll want some of the hyperchrome. I'll probably go with a cold tone. You've got the option of 3 different tones. And then as a base, jet black underneath the chrome. So you've got, you know, some good opportunities to get a few different colours close to OEM. Now, what would my plan be to build this? Well, obviously I like subtle. So I think I'd go with a Pro Touring style chassis, Godzilla with a individual port injection. I reckon that would look super cool. And I think I'd go with the yellow ochre, if I'm honest. Draftsman's Corner. Let's take a look at digital dashboards, especially for race cars and drag cars, mostly used in with Motec sort of ECUs or Big 3 style ECUs. So in the past I've been using these digital screens which have a little bit of a lip over the edge, but you know, they're more of kind of like a half kidney bean shape. Then I got hold of some Slixx decals because I wanted to add some more detail to my builds overall, my drag builds overall. And what I saw was these race pack style dash decals. They looked pretty cool. And so you can see there is the RPM, speed, a few other details in the race pack decal on the top. And then on the side there's the black buttons. So looks pretty cool, but I had nowhere to put it. So using my calipers, I took some dimensions. And obviously, because Matty likes the design, I came up with similar sort of size and footprint as the decals, two shapes. So one that can fit the race pack decal over the top and one that doesn't, because I wanted to do some experimentation, but enough width on the side to actually be able to get the buttons on there. On the back, also two variations, a little hook to mount, and somewhere where I could park or dock the wiring on my builds. So if we go to visualization mode where you can see the pretty version, that's what they would ultimately kind of look like. Now, with the magic of 3D printing, ta-da, there we go. So that's the size of them. And to test these out, here's some I prepared earlier. So I've already cleaned them up and painted them black with a matte finish. And then what we'll do is we'll have a look at how they fit. But before I do that, just want to demonstrate that hook at the back. And to do that, I've got one of my Pro Mod chassis, just the center section with no flaws, but this is usually my test piece. What you can see there is the integrated steering shaft that comes with that chassis. And then up here is the mount for a screen. And so what I'll do is I'll take that hook, place it over, and that's the way it sits. So you get a good nice flush finish, and it docks pretty well, and hopefully the wiring gets cleaned up when it plugs into the back. So now I want to see what it's like with the decal on. Now my setup for decaling is pretty basic, and there's probably some hints and tips that some of you can give me. But I've got a big flat lid, which is actually from a yogurt container filled with water, Mr. Mark setter, Revel Decal Soft, and some Tamiya soft touch tweezers just to handle it. So I've got my dash. I'm going to put it on the tissue just so that it holds in place. We'll get that decal into the water, put some setter on the piece, and now that I've got my decal separated, let's give it a try. So overall it does look like it fits. It does look like it needs a little bit of softener to get it into the grooves and get the... I just kind of add a bit, let it set, add a little bit more, let it set, and just keep repeating until I get it behaving the way I want. For aftermarket decals, they're usually much better quality than the kit decals, so it does need... They are thicker, and so they tend to need more. So let's see how we go. So after a little bit of matte clear, that now starts to settle down the decal a little bit better. Conforms to the shape, and you don't get that clear, visible decal outline. It starts to look a little bit more cohesive. So now let's give it a test drive in a build. So this is a chassis I've been working on for quite a while. If you follow some of my socials, you'll see that there's updates every now and again. But it's actually a right-hand drive Chrysler Valiant Pro Mod style chassis. And so what I've done is I've mounted the dash in there just so you can see how it looks from afar. And then if we take a closer look, just at the right angle, that's how the dash looks sitting in there. Fits on the back the same way as it does on every other chassis that I have, and yeah, ready to keep on building This, I like that detail actually. You can get some good angled shots from afar. Okay, cool. So there you go, Slixx decals. The set I used, the sheet I used is Drag Racing Goodie Sheet number 1. Great quality, very happy with that. And I'll make those dashes available soon in my stores. Diorama-rama. I like building engines. And I like them so much that I build lots of them. 6 cylinders, blown engines, top fuel engines, weird 4-cylinder engines, and so on. And so I had to think of a way to try and display them a little bit cleaner in my dioramas. And one of the ideas was to create these different size engine trolleys where I could slot them in and have them in the background. The problem is they got a little bit lost. And when I wanted to focus on one, especially when it's quite some time between engine being built and the engine being on display, to actually get the most out of the details that are in there. Once it's in the model, you don't always see everything. So one idea was an engine building room, which I got started on, and I'll go into a bit more detail later on. But I had a better idea. The natural next step after an engine building room is to test the engine. And that's where I came up with an engine dyno room. And although it's not finished, there is enough detail there and some of the bigger elements to already get a sense of how this is starting to come together. And so first up, in essentially the reception area, there is a comfortable chair with race seat. You've got your laptop and your curved TV for all your diagnostics. Really needs a decal or a printout of some of the engine activity there. And then your main computer for the engine dyno. What's also cool is, for a little bit of extra drama, a movable trigger. Engine revs go up, engine revs go down, engine revs go up, engine revs go down. Because this is part of a bigger modular diorama, this side will be exposed, and so there is a access window so you could see through it and get some footage of what's happening in there. You can zoom in and see some of the engine detail and then some of the electrical components on the wall and the toolbox. So let's start with some of the main components of the actual dyno itself. So this is an engine dyno, not a chassis dyno, and that's where you see the engine parked up against on a trolley, on a ramp, parked up against this piece here, which is actually where there's a shaft inside that connects to the back of the engine crank, and then it goes through, black magic happens within that box and it gets your reading. At the back, this white column is actually a cooling tower where the radiator water will go through. There's a breather on the top, and there'll be some pipes that extend all the way to the front of the engine. This electrical box is obviously where you have everything controlling the ECU. So I've wired everything from some inserts. You can see some blue inserts in that white box. I've wired those up, run them up across the top, and then into these boxes. And these boxes are primarily meant to just be a docking spot for the wires themselves, but they mimic, an engine management system. On the top of the tower, I've tried to make it a little bit dynamic, and so the water going on and off has an actual valve. So this will come down into one side of the engine radiator and then back through to the back. What you can't see just under there, but I can actually pull them out, is some starter motors that help get the dyno started. Apart from that, if you look a little bit further around the diorama, you can see an air conditioning unit, split system, some HVAC ducting, 3-phase power slots, and trying to work out how to run the power the right way. Probably need some shelves under there to have some spare parts like different carburetors and intake manifolds, so that might sort out the wiring a little bit. Through some conduit that runs up the corner up the top, and then a wire from the conduit into the box itself. And then some tiling and a few other bits and pieces. So That's most of it, and then what you can also see is a toolbox. I'll see if I can very efficiently take out one of the drawers. This one wants to come. All the drawers open, there'll be some tools in there as well, and that's all 3D printed. Apart from that, the floor is MDF that was already laminated white. I've cut some tile shapes into it and put some black wash over it. The inner walls are just paint with a blue divider line, and then I've started some of the weathering on where I think some of the dirt and grime would be. Now at the back of the room, you can see mounted against, on either side of the dyno on the wall, that's actually where I plan to run the exhaust tubes back out, so some ventilation to make sure it goes out. So that way you get a little bit more realism. That's some of the wiring detail there, and you can see another air conditioning unit on the other side. So now if you want to get some nice shots of the engine in its natural environment before it goes into an actual car, you've got an engine that sits there and is a little bit more highlighted. Even if you want to show it transiting to the dyno, you've got a trolley, it all color matches, and you've at least got some better visuals, yeah? Now one of the problems I had to try and solve is big engines, small engines, there's going to be different combinations, so how do I all get it to fit? Especially because I wanted to make this look realistic, and I wanted to find a way to bring air into the intake of the engines. Now this happy fellow is the air intake. So it mounts on the roof, comes down, and the engine carburetor will sit just under here. So this is really where height becomes a factor. So how do I make this adjustable? What I actually did is designed a turn screw set of steps, so that extends and adds a little bit of distance just to bring it closer or bring it higher. So as I mount it onto the roof, it goes up, it goes down. Some wiring just to add a little bit of interest and pieces. It's painted in mostly silvers, but then a clear blue over the top to look anodized, and then you can see the white curved section will mold with the roof. And that's a wrap for this episode. If you enjoyed the ride, give it a thumbs up, subscribe if you haven't already, drop your thoughts in the comments, or send photos of your latest builds to the email that's in the description. A special shout out to all those who supported this episode, Icky, Sticky, and the Scale Model Supply. If you haven't joined our mailing list yet, do it now. You get a free 3D file. The link is in the description. It's a limited time. Get yours now. And remember, buying more kits is not hoarding, it's collecting. See you next time. MCS Design is now on Patreon. You'll get access to exclusive and early release 3D designs every month, engine upgrade sets, the ability to vote on future drop designs, monthly design packs, and the ability to request some adjustments to those monthly packs to suit your build. Join now, links in the description.